Welcome to Three Chords and Some Lies. It's me, Andy.
And me, Jim. How you doing?
I'm very well, Jim. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. I'm very well. So today, we're going to be having a conversation about Andy's pride and joy, which is his. Correct me if I get the model wrong. Is it the MK1? The
It
Pensa
is the
Mk1.
MK1, the Pensa, yeah, absolutely.
So I think the best thing to do, I guess, is to dive straight in. So, what was the inspiration behind you getting hold of one of these MK1s then?
Well, it was my complete obsession with Mark Knopfler growing up, as you are more than well aware of.
Yeah.
So he, well, how long did he do this? I mean, basically, I think when I was 11, I heard Money for Nothing, and that was just like,
Yeah.
I have to learn how to do that. And then it just came along, following him, learning all his solos, doing all the rest of it. And then in 1987, of course, the very famous Nelson Mandela concert where he turned up with it for the first time.
Yes.
Now, there's been a few stories about where this came from.
Yep.
And I will relate to this later, the story. But essentially what I did is at some point many years ago, 24-ish years ago, I was looking on the internet and was watching some Mark playing this thing, and I was like, I wonder if you can actually get that. Was that like a one-off thing? Was that just something that was made for him? Who was it? What was the story? And I found Rudy's Music Stop, which of course probably the world's most famous music shop in the world.
Absolutely.
And we lo and behold, Pensa Customs. So I was like, no. Now we spoke about gas the other week.
Yes, we did.
I had big gas when I knew this thing was possible. This was like, you've got to be joking. So I wrote to them and said, hello, is this possible? And they said, yes, it is possible. Okay, how much is it? Oh, okay. I'll just go and rob a bank and then I'll come back to you.
Yes.
Anyway, I decided to go to New York to check it out.
Yep.
I went. I mean, like, who doesn't want to go to New York? It was awesome. So it was just after Giuliani had cleaned it up. So it was safe as houses. You can walk around at night, no problem. Lovely, really awesome place. And turned up at the music at his, the hallowed ground of Rudy's Music Stop, which was back then on 48th and 7th, I think it was.
Yeah,
and they've moved.
I think West 48th and 7th. Is that?
It was West 48th and 7th. Yeah, absolutely. See, we sound like locals now, don't we? New York locals. And they've moved down to Soho on 24th, 25th Street now, I think. But
they have indeed.
Which I very much would like to go and see. Anyway, so I went there. I walked in hoping to, meet the man himself and everything. And the guy came out and said, "Oh, can you hang on for a little bit?" And I was like, "Okay." And then they gave me an off-the-rack Pensa that they'd made that wasn't a custom. It was just like buying a Strat, and it was like a super Strat, and that was it. And I was like, "What have I just done here? Like, what am I doing?" So I was crushingly disappointed. They said, Rudy's not available. You're going to have to come back tomorrow. So I was like, okay. Went off and did tourist things. Came back the next day. Finally, Rudy turned up. And he was he kept hugging me all the time because I liked his friend Mark.
Yes.
He was like, okay, Andy, come on. Anyway, he took me up to his secret third store stash of Uber stuff.
Yeah.
So he finally gave me his own Pensa. And he said, yeah, play this. So I plugged it in. I was just like, oh my good God. Like the strings they were floppy and tight all at the same time. They were so easy to move. It sounded amazing. It felt amazing. The whole thing was just like, oh my God, I'm just sitting here with Rudy Pensa. As a child, like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, I was reading the back of the Brothers in Arms album, back when we used to have album art and stuff.
Yes.
And used to be able to read, which people miss out on these days. And it was all thanks to Rudy's Music Stop. And you're like, they were just evocative of all of this stuff. And I was there. And it was amazing. So anyway, he got someone into our listen, and he said, oh, you play really well, man. You play really well, man. I'll build you a beautiful guitar, Andy, beautiful guitar. And, so I know you will, Rudy. It's absolutely fine. And I said, I haven't quite got the money yet, but I will absolutely order one when I get home, and I'll sort it out, and we'll sort it out. And he said, well, tell you what, get a build sheet. So what happens is you get a build sheet.
Yeah.
And you can specify pretty much everything. It is properly custom. It's not like a Les Paul custom where it's called a custom, but
It isn't
really.
a custom. It
isn't a custom at all. Made by craftsmen. This is custom.
Yeah.
So you can have it exactly as you like. So I wanted it exactly like Mark's guitar, because they'd actually done something different. They'd actually, Mark's guitar doesn't have the plastic O-rings around it, which they now put on. And Mark's was the only one that had an all-in-one maple top. So, but what they do is they get the maple veneers. Now, veneers normally are very thin. I've done a bit of woodworking in my time, and the veneers are very thin. This veneer was like this,
a proper maple cap,
a massive maple cap, and they carve it, and then it all gets married to the body of the guitar. And they were very nice. So I had Phil and Mac who built it. So Phil was a guy, and I think he was at school with Satriani, but didn't know him. But he was in that kind of Long Island sort of massive, as it were. And then Mark Knopfler, who's like a Japanese American guy, and he was really nice, and he did the electronics. And I believe he's now doing the full customs. So,
fantastic.
That was my build, and I could specify the thickness of the neck. I could, they build the guitar around at the gauge of the string. So I used the Dario 942s.
Yeah,
and you really don't vary from that. It's built. So the origins of this is that Rudy Pensa, John Suhr, and Mark Knopfler were all in this coffee shop. And Rudy, when I was with Rudy, he said, "Oh yes, it's just around the corner, man. I can take you there and we have coffee." And it was like, oh my god,
yeah,
it's just like, oh my god, this is like a dream. So he, excuse me. So he said, they all just sat down. They wanted something different for Mark to have, and John Suhr had invented this unbelievably genius technique for putting the guitar. For building the guitar. So the neck gets put into this device. Excuse me. The neck gets put into a device that is then put under tension, which is why they build the strings around that tension.
Yeah.
So that they basically pull on it and then they fret it, so that when they let it all go and put it on the neck, when you put the strings on, nothing happens. It is rock solid.
It doesn't move, it's there.
It doesn't move, it's there. So you can use, most people have got a guitar tuner. I've got two. I've got a guitar tuner that my brother bought me, and I've got a Pensa, because they are that stable. You can tune guitars off them.
Yeah.
So, that was just amazing. And Rudy said, he actually gave me, in this little secret room up at the top of Rudy's shop, he gave me this purple guitar. And I said, "Oh, well, I'll have a go at this as well." I was sitting there playing it. He said, "That's Mark's guitar," and I was like, "Shut up!"
His actual one.
This was Mark Knopfler's actual Pensa, and Rudy had it in the shop for, I don't know why, but he had it, and it was the same guitar that was played on the album Neck and Neck with Chet Atkins, which I'd had.
Wow, which is Chet Atkins is rather good as well.
So. Like, I know. And I was like, "That's that one," and he was like, "Yeah, play it, man, play it, man." I was just like, "I can't touch this. This is like the Holy Grail. What are you talking about?" And it was awesome. So Rudy also told me this thing. So a year later, because it takes 6 months to build them, I went back to pick it up in New York. I think it was around New Year's. New Year's we went to pick it up. And Superman was turning on the lights on the, they got when the ball drops in New York on Times Square. There, Christopher Reeve up there was another hero of mine. It's like, can this week get any better? It was ridiculous. So I went to pick up the Pensa. They gave me the case, and well, here she is.
So it's like you opened it up.
I opened it up, and this was waiting for me.
Wow.
I mean,
24 years and it looks brand new.
And it looks brand new, and it plays just as well. I mean,
it looks like it's got a one-piece maple top as well.
Well, do you know what? It hasn't. It is actually book matched. It is book matched
so well.
It is book matched so well. Not very, very kindly, because they knew how much I drove Paul Rudy mad in the Maker's Mag. So I said, I want it like Mark's, because what they do with the binding is they actually scrape it off once the lacquer's gone on.
Yeah.
and it becomes white, a bit like your telly there.
Yeah.
Nice telly as well.
Yes, lovely.
I cover that.
We'll do another one on this in the future.
Yeah.
If I keep it that long, well, I think I will.
And the pictures I'd seen of Mark's, it wasn't. It was just the sort of the caramel coloured coating was over the top, and that was that. And they said, no, Mark's definitely is white. And I said, I'm sorry, guys, it just isn't. And I'm spending an absolute
fortune,
shed load of money here, and I want it like Mark Knopfler's guitar, or it's off. And so at the time they had like I said, we had the plastic rings around here, but Rudy went, well, I don't know what to do, because we anyway, he emailed me and said, we've worked out a way of doing it. We're going to cut little holes.
Yeah.
Because Mark's, if you ever look at a picture of Mark's, and you've seen it, haven't you? The real one, didn't you?
Yeah, the real one, yeah.
Swine. That was covered. That was all solid, but it was hollow. And Rudy said, if that breaks, you've got to throw the whole thing away. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, get a whole new top on it.
Whole new top.
Yeah.
So he said, we've come up with a plan. We're just going to cut some little holes in it, and then it'll look like Mark's as close as we can.
Wonderful.
And they put so we've got a volume. We've got a volume there. We've got the tone there.
Yeah.
And the volume has got a boost on it.
Oh,
so
it's
you
a
can pull it up.
boost. I thought it was a coil split, so it's a boost. Has it got a battery in it then?
Yes.
I see.
It lives in here. And there's the boost dial. So you can actually dial the boost up if you want to.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. See? So that's that. And then, because they said, what do you want on it? It was literally everything.
Yeah.
And also we've got a split coil on the volume pot.
Oh, so you've got a split coil.
So it's a split coil and boosted as well. So it's got all the toys on it.
Wow.
And the wonderful Shallow Floyd Rose, which are fantastic.
Yeah.
If anyone out there does have a Shallow Floyd Rose, do not screw with it. Do not put it in a different tuning, because it took 3 months for it to sort itself out.
Yeah, they don't like it.
They do not like it.
Floyd Rose guitar that I was trying to use in Drop D, but it wasn't going to happen. We'll have a Floyd Rose discussion another time. But yeah,
we will. But that one was that. So anyway, so it came, and it was I mean, look at it. I mean, it's absolutely fine. Now, Phil said, I called Phil up one day and I said, how's it going? And he said, we've got someone who was ahead of you in the queue, but he said, I have found this wonderful piece of maple that you will almost not be able to tell that it's book matched. And he said, I'm going to bump you up, and I'm giving it to you because it means so much to you. And I was like, oh, dude, wow, that's so kind. He said the other guy's not that bothered. He just wants a Pensa.
Yeah.
But he was very kind, and he donated me that piece. I mean, it was 350 quid just for this maple.
Wow.
And the rest of it in the back is mahogany.
Yeah.
So, she's quite heavy. But they had the neck came back from the machine shop, and it was slightly too fat. So, Phil scraped it back with a cabinet scraper and got it, shaved like a 1,000th inch off the side of it. It was just wonderful. And they sent me pictures of it being made. They have got pictures of it all naked and just the body unsanded and uncoloured. And
so have you still got all the pics?
I've got the pics somewhere. Yeah, we'll have to put them up.
Yeah, maybe we can put them below the video somewhere.
Yeah, we'll put them in the description, or we'll have a link to our Instagram, and we'll put it on the Three Chords Instagram.
Wonderful.
That'd be a good idea. So Rudy told me the other story, which is I alluded to before.
Yeah.
So now I've heard Mary Spender got to play Mark's guitars at the recent auction, the one a few months ago, where Mark, for some bizarre reason, sold all of his instruments.
Yeah.
Including the Pensa, which I will never understand why he did that.
I'll never understand that either.
Because I will be in a ditch with this on top of me before I would have to sell this.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Rudy told me this story. So I've heard, while the auction was going on, I heard this story in 2 or 3 versions of it. Now, all I can say is what Rudy told me personally, and he was standing right next to me, and he told me this story personally.
Yeah.
They made the guitar for Mark.
Yeah.
John Suhr built the guitar, and Phil, who built mine, actually was sired by John. So he was like a second generation.
One of his prodigies kind of thing, yeah.
Absolutely. He was, sort of like an apprentice, if you like, to John Suhr. In the same way that Stradivarius had, people under him and under him.
Yeah.
And so really said that Mark Knopfler, for that legendary gig with Nelson Mandela, they basically handed him the guitar, and he went on stage with it in front of 1 billion people.
Yes.
Now, I've heard that it was earlier than that,
Yeah.
But all I can say was that that's what Rudy told me.
Well, the whole purpose of this podcast is 3/4 of some lies. So if Rudy embellished it, Rudy embellished it.
If Rudy embellished it, absolutely.
It's a great story. Let's keep it as it is.
That might be some lies, but all I can say was
it's not your lie. Rudy told you so.
That's what Rudy told me. Now, if Rudy Pensa, who built the thing, told me that, I have no reason to doubt it.
No,
so but that's what he told me. But so there we go. So that is the Pensa Mk1. Is it the best guitar in the world? It is. I've played a lot of guitars.
Yep, I've played that one. But you see, when I played that one, I didn't really know what I was talking about. I've learned a lot since then. I remember it being absolutely beautiful. And I remember the neck being, in a good way, quite fat. And I like a fat neck. But I at that time, again, I probably didn't really know, much about what I was talking about on neck radiuses. So at the time, it felt to me quite chunky and I really liked it. But I don't know how it would compare to some of the more chunky stuff I've got now. How do you feel about it, chunky-wise?
I really like it. I mean, Mark's neck, Rudy said, was actually very thin.
Okay.
And he said, actually, Mark would like this neck. He said, at the time, Mark's gone back into Les Pauls and he quite likes the whole chunky neck thing. And actually, at the back of Mark's, there was two sort of holes here to hold the
hold the thingy on,
to hold this sort of nut on. It's got quite an elaborate nut. Obviously, you need for the Floyd Rose to clamp the strings down on, and this is actually now screwed into the neck this way.
Yeah.
But if you ever see a picture of Mark's, there's two holes at the back here, and he's got
some of the older ones had that with any Floyd Rose, so that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he had some. I think he's even got some Allen keys on the back of here. There was a little device there.
I'm sure he doesn't do it himself.
I'm sure he doesn't. I don't actually know who his guitar tech is. I'm sure he's got one.
I'm sure we can find out.
I'm available for that job if he wants a new one.
Yeah.
So I mean that's it, and it is easily. I think what's my serial number? My serial number is. It is 102303.
That's
and there's a tiny little bit of wear off the gold on the back in 25 years, in a quarter of a century almost, and that's not bad, is it?
Yeah, no, it's interesting what you say about the neck and the fatness because, and this is a tiny little aside because we're trying to avoid the asides because they can go on forever.
Yeah, that's fine. It's all part of the fun.
Mark sold his 59 Les Paul, but he kept his 58. And the 58s notoriously had a fatter neck than the 59, so maybe he does prefer a fatter neck.
Maybe. I mean, that Rudy said so, and I think he's sort of gone into that because obviously with a fatter neck, there's more tone.
Yeah,
it's always a compromise, isn't it? You know, you have big thick strings and big thick neck, and you get all this tone, but then you've got less playability in it.
Yeah,
you know, there is a balance, and we'll cover that in a future podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get Wayne on or something. I'll chat Wayne who builds
neck dimensions and that sort of stuff. I mean, I've got this one has got a 63 neck, so it's fairly slim, and it's a 9.5 inch radius, but. Some of the other stuff, I've got one which has got a 16-inch radius, but
that's flat.
It's flat, but it's difficult for me to tell. I don't have that. It's easy to play. I don't really know. So.
Yeah. To be honest, I can't remember what the radius of this is. We'll have to do a deep dive on it. It looks fairly flat. I mean, it's got a curve to it, but it's not. It's not massive.
No, I'd imagine it's probably 9.5 is pretty much industry standard nowadays.
So I'm not really sure on this, but I mean the strings are they're just absolutely ridiculously low, and you can just get away with it. I think there might be a slight buzz, but nothing they're going to complain about.
Oh, when it's plugged in, you don't hear. With a Floyd Rose, you always get some modicum of rattle anyway.
Yeah, but you sort of don't really get a lot of it than that. And the EMG pickups I love EMGs. They've got a fantastic sound. We've got the classic
cream as well.
They look great because normally they're black, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Pickups.
And it looks honestly that the cream is so good. I was thinking of going to get a new pickup for my bridge here because it's got the Texas Specials. I'm not a massive fan of Texas Specials.
Yeah. Well, you could go down the Rick Parfitt route because he had Lindy Fraylins, I think, in his.
Well, I've got Lindy Fraylins in my other one, and they are absolutely out of this world. In my ugly Fano that you hate, it's got Lindy Fraylin pickups, and they are absolutely wonderful. But for this one, I'm thinking there's a chap who I'd love to get to chat to us at some point as well. A chap by the name of Mark from OX4 Pickups, who incidentally made some pickups for Mark Knopfler.
Oh.
And made pickups for Jason Isbell. and me, because I've got 2 sets of his pickups in. I've got his pickups in my Les Paul.
So his client base just went up and up and up,
Yeah,
and it arrived at you. It's impressive.
Yeah. He's got he does some lovely aftermarket pickups, and I'm thinking I might get him to make me one. In fact, I sent him a message this morning to ask him, saying to him that I wanted something that was both fat and twangy at the same time, and fat when I rolled the tone back and twangy when I rolled it up. And he hasn't replied to me yet because I constantly bothered the poor guy. But at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, pickups are awesome. I've got a Sunrise pickup in my 12-string acoustic guitar, and they're completely handmade.
Yeah,
and I just love them. It's awesome. You can adjust the poles, and it's really anal pickup stuff.
Well, it's pickups are where the tone is, neck is where the tone is, body is where it's all together the thing. But the pickups are probably the easiest thing to choose.
Absolutely, yeah. And I remember thinking, when the Pensa was being made, I'd be talking to him every now and again. That we'd be discussing things and seeing how things are going and where it is and where the build's at. And I said, and I remember talking to Gordon, who's a friend of mine that also worked at Rudy's, and Phil, and I was like, can you just please justify to me this money? Because it is a lot, and I'm just a penniless guitar teacher, and still am. But, what is it? Is it really going to be worth it? And they were like, look, this is just handmade. It's just, you have no idea. It's just, it's not going to be an off-the-shop Stratocaster. I promise you. Because I was a greenhorn. I had no idea. I just, I was buying this fantastic thing. A man alive, were they right? I think the first thing I came back and played on it wasn't actually any Mark Knopfler. I played Flying in a Blue Dream by Joe Satriani, a live version from 2001, the definitive version, in my own humble opinion. And I was just playing this song, and I just plugged it in, and I was just like, oh my! I was almost weeping at how well this thing plays. It is. I always describe it to people as, my students, as it's a Formula One car.
Yeah. In
guitar form.
Oh, it is.
There is designed for one thing, and that's speed, and that's what it's for. Yeah. You could rock out. I've played Darkness songs on it, and all the Black Shuck and all that kind of thing, and it works perfectly well. But this is designed for soloing and speed, and I've played all the Satriani catalogue has been played on it, and it's just it's just the most easy. The strings just. They're just, you hardly touch them, and they just. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but. They just bend so ridiculously easy, and that is just the Floyd Rose. It's the whole ridiculous quality. These are a lot of money now. They've at least doubled, I think, in price.
I think there'll be more. I don't even know how easy it would be to get one. That'd be really interesting, actually, to have a conversation.
Yeah, Pensa still are making custom guitars. I follow them on Facebook, so I'll have to bung them this podcast and see if Rudy will watch it.
I'm sure he will. I
hope so. They still make them. They're still. They also the Mark II came after this, which had I can't remember the pickups that had on it. I'm trying to remember the name of them. That might have been Lindy Freyland's. I can't remember. And it was a slightly different thing, and it didn't have the Floyd Rose. I think it was a hardtail.
Yeah.
And then you remember Mark Knopfler's famous Schecter from the 80s? Yeah, that red Schecter.
I've seen that as well.
I hate you more.
Yeah.
Because I love that thing. But that was, I don't know if you stole it, because that was stolen.
Oh, well, I saw 2 Schecters, but I saw a red telly and a black telly.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. His red telly was his famous sort of Walk of Life Telecaster that he used on Walk of Life. But his red Stratocaster Schecter.
I never saw it. No, I didn't see that.
No. Well, you wouldn't, because it was stolen many years ago.
Right.
So Mark went to Rudy and said, can you make me a Pensa version? So Rudy made him a Pensa version with the 2 dials and the little the different pickup selector that the Schecters had. But with that, isn't that just the coolest neck?
Beautiful
headstock. It's so,
Move it a little closer to the camera so everyone can see it.
Absolutely, yeah. Look at that. So there's the Pensa custom headstock.
Oh,
and
I hadn't seen that up close before.
Yeah, look at that. It's just lovely. It's just a wonderful shape. I mean, I love the Stratocaster one as well. I mean, I love the big fat headstocks, but I don't think anything comes close to this thing. And I think it is the best guitar in the world.
Well, we'll have some conversations about that further down the line. Most definitely,
we certainly will. And absolutely. And if anybody wants to delve in and tell me I'm wrong, and they've got their best guitar in the world, then like, subscribe, write us things in the comments, and talk to us, and we'll talk back.
We will indeed. That's absolutely fantastic. Cool.
It is right. Well, I think that's about the Pensa episode wrapped up.
Absolutely, and ask us any questions, and hopefully we'll get this around and about and out to a load of people, and maybe even Rudy himself might see it and maybe even share it for us. So
he might do.
Thanks, Rudy.
Who knows? Absolutely, in advance. Yeah, and we're on Instagram now.
Yeah,
you can get us on Instagram now. Yeah,
we are 3 chords and some lies with a number 3.
Yeah.
We might have followed you already. You never know. Follow us back. We look forward to interacting with you further in the future. We've got some really exciting guests lined up over the next couple of weeks, and yeah,
we certainly have. Yeah, we've yes, we'll put an Instagram description. We'll put a link in the description.
Yeah,
so people can follow us on Instagram, and they can send us your guitars, send us your pickups, send us your pedals, send us your amplifiers. Yeah. We want to see what you've got and what you like to play.
Absolutely.
And there we go. Cool. Well, thanks, Jim. That was fun.
We'll speak soon.
We will. Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye.